Hi there, everybody. It is time to go over the NPD sales data for November of 2012. We're going to go over hardware and a little bit of software information here. I do want to let you guys know that while Nintendo and Microsoft did release their hardware numbers for the month, Sony did not release theirs. So the information that I'm going to offer with regards to Sony hardware sales are being gleaned from message boards and from reliable retail sources. The Xbox 360 came in first place for hardware. It is not a surprise. I talked about this last night. I did expect sales to be about 1.4 to maybe 1.5 million units. That was incorrect. We wound up with about 1.26 million units, which is about 26% less than last year. I did expect a little bit better turnaround given Black Ops 2 and the release of Halo 4, and unfortunately that didn't happen. But again, if you take a look at last November, the number of units that were sold was pretty big. So the comp was probably a little unrealistic to expect. And the fact of the matter is that the Xbox 360 is still at the top of the heap. So they're at number one. Number two, and unfortunately we can't confirm a specific number because it's a Sony product, but the PlayStation 3 is projected to be in the second slot. Ranges are anywhere between 650 to 800,000 units. I'm narrowing mine down to between 725 and 775, which is still more than good enough for second place. Those numbers would be less than last year, although the difference would be pretty flat. We're probably looking in the single numbers in terms of negative year-on-year percentage. So it's not bad. It's not a great number, but if you look at the overall year-over-year comparison, I do believe that Sony is doing okay, not great, but okay. In third place is the Nintendo 3DS with about 540,000 units. That's a pretty significant drop of 32% from last year. Big reasons for that are really there are two of them. A, Paper Mario Sticker Star is no substitute for Super Mario 3D Land. Never had a chance. So with weaker software to be offered, A, and then B, having to compete with the Wii U, which is the brand new platform on the market, and then a resurgence in regular DS sales because they're cheap and because there's still a ton of software available, and it leaves the 3DS kind of in the middle. And that's where we're left with 540,000 units in a rather disappointing Black Friday week, which led me to believe that the number would actually be lower. So it's better than I expected, but it's certainly not an impressive number at 540,000. Following the 3DS in fourth place is the Wii U at 425,000 units. We'd expected 450,000, so 425 is certainly in line with what we thought. New Super Mario Bros. U, by the way, was the best-selling software title for the Wii U. The Wii U was not a disappointment. It wasn't a impressive launch by any stretch. I do believe that we can't hold it against Wii launch numbers and say that it was big because the market's much bigger now. But it's certainly not a failure. So if you hear anyone say that it was a dud or that it was a big disappointment, it wasn't. It was an okay launch, and we'll leave it at that. Following the Wii U is the Wii at 420,000 units. That's about a 51% drop from last year. And given that there are no more games coming from Nintendo and that third-party games are shovelware at best with the exception of Just Dance 4, it's good that it's there, but it's on its way out. And unless the Wii Mini somehow finds its way into stores here in the U.S., I really don't see the Wii being much more than this one more year before it kind of goes away and retailers will be glad to be rid of it. The Nintendo DS follows at 370,000 units, and it is the only platform to show an increase year over year. Although the increase is only 6%, it's still on the plus side, and that's certainly good news. Pokemon Black and White 2 certainly helps. The low price point certainly helps. And it's been around for a while. There's a big library. So if you have the money to spend on it, it's a relatively inexpensive gift, and you can take it anywhere, and it's still a pretty good device. So I can see why it's still selling. and Nintendo's still making money off it, so I'm sure that at least outwardly they're not too upset about the DS doing so well and maybe taking away from the 3DS a little bit. So we come to the Vita last. Vita didn't scare anybody, even though numbers do indicate, and we don't have any specific numbers, but there is an indication that we're over 200,000 units, somewhere between 210 to 225,000. You consider that there was a temporary price drop. You have to consider that there was an Assassin's Creed game and a Call of Duty game, and all of that, and still looking at only 210 to 225 is a show of life, but little else. I do believe that we need to see a couple more months where the Vita is around or over 200,000 units to believe that it's pulling out of the tailspin here. And I don't know that that's going to happen. We'll see how December goes, but even then, I don't see much hope for January, and we'll just have to see how long Sony sticks with it, even with a more permanent price drop expected in the first quarter of next year. And that's your hardware look. Really, there are no surprises other than the fact that 3DS probably could have done better, and I do think that 3DS is going to struggle again in December. But I'm pretty sure that we all expected that it was going to be 360 PS3 and then everyone else kind of down the line. And that's where we are with hardware. And I'll be writing a full rundown on this for Pop's Hour Press within the next day or two. We're going to take a look briefly at software. Please keep in mind that with software analysis, we're gleaning numbers from retail sources and from what's been publicly shared. And none of this includes digital sales at all. So we're only looking at one part of the picture here, so it's really difficult to draw appropriate analysis other than a lot of guesswork, and this is what we're seeing in stores and kind of going from there. Let's take a look here and see. Black Ops 2, Halo 4, Assassin's Creed 3, and Just Dance 4. Those are your top 4 titles. No real big surprises there, although it's good to see Just Dance 4 show up after not really lighting up the charts in its launch month of release. Then Madden 13 is 5th. Skylanders Giants actually doing 6th place, which is pretty impressive. It is a great holiday gift. I can actually see it doing well through the rest of the holiday season, through the rest of quarter 4, and into the first quarter of next year. Need for Speed Most Wanted comes in after Skylanders Giants, and the big surprise there is that the PlayStation 3 version was the best-selling version of the 4 that are available. It was PS3, 360, Vita, and then the PC in that order. NBA 2K13 still moving right along. Then WWE 13, which is a decent debut for the title, or decent showing for the title, I should say. And then FIFA Soccer 13 rounding out the top 10. A couple of other interesting notes about software. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, I think that's the full name, moved less than 90,000 units combined across the PlayStation 3 and the Vita. If that's the big exclusive title for Sony for the fourth quarter, that is not at all impressive. And then in an even worse showing, it turns out that sources are indicating Wonder Book sold less than 8,000 copies. Again, that's 8,000, 8 with 3 zeros following. There was no marketing for either of these. I suppose that we probably shouldn't have expected miracles, but again, these are 2 exclusive titles that are supposed to move PlayStation 3 units, and both of them performed rather miserably. And if you compare that, granted, Halo is a completely different genre, and everyone knows what Halo is, but again, even if that's Microsoft's only exclusive, that moving 3 million units versus less than 90,000 for Sony's exclusive is a real imbalancing act and should not have occurred. I can argue that better marketing was needed for PlayStation All-Stars and possibly for Wonder Book, but that's for another video that we'll do at another time. So that's about it. I'm about out of time, as I can only go about 10 minutes with YouTube videos. I do want to thank you guys for watching these. Again, keep your eyes open on popzarapress.com. That's popzara.com, where we'll have some analysis up in the next couple of days. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll do this again soon.